All right, so welcome to CIN 708, semester 2, 2021. I assume that all of you are basically enrolled under Namaka campus because CIN 708 semester unit is offered in Namaka campus. So is there anyone who is not from Namaka campus? You are from any other campuses, let's say from Adanasinu, or joining us from Lambasa campus, or from Natambua/Lotoka campus? Is anyone here from any other campus apart from Namaka? No? If you are not from any other campus, so that's good. Why I'm asking, just in case if you are from some other campuses, later on, usually we intend to have issues when we try to release the results from students if they are enrolled in a specific campus and they're attending their classes from another campus. So just trying to clarify that right at the very beginning. So if there's no one, okay, now what you'll notice is that right underneath at the bottom of your screen, you have a Zoom toolbar. If you wish to ask questions, if you wish to have, or if you have any queries, you have a reactions button somewhere at the bottom. So in the reaction buttons, you have another feature called raise your hand. So if you want to ask any questions or if you have any queries, feel free to click onto that raise hand button so that I would know you actually have some questions on you. Moving on. First thing that I wanted to do before we actually start off with our lecture is go over some of the very basic things. Generally, we call it as housekeeping matters for a specific course or unit. So the very first thing that we'll be looking at in today's class is our timetable. Now, at the moment, the classes are scheduled as you should be seeing on the screen. So we have classes on Wednesday, today, 2 to 4 p.m. This is our lecture class. And then we have another class on Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. whereby we'll be going over online tutorial and general consultation within the class. So is there anyone who's having a clash or if you have problems with the timetable? Now, I do know that there are some of you who are working students. So those of you who are working students, and if you are working between 2 to 4 p.m., you don't need to worry about it. What we'll do is I'm actually recording the lecture, and I'll be also recording all the tutorial classes, and those recorded copies will be uploaded on each and every week's section. So this is week 1, so the recording will come right here at the bottom. There will be a YouTube link to it. So you should be able to go to the lectures just in case if you end up missing the class. Any question, any queries so far, or any clashes? I'll give you a minute. If you have clashes, do let me know. You're most welcome to unmute and speak. Just a kind request, please try to turn off your videos. If you've switched it on, what happens is generally when videos are turned up, the file size tends to be very big when I'm actually trying to save it up on Moodle. So any clashes, any questions, any queries so far? So far we have 6 of you who has joined us. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So no questions, no clashes? All right, so no clashes, then good. That means I will not have to change the timetable anymore. All right. Now, what you notice is that in week 1, what I have actually done is you have a lecture class link. Now, I'm guessing this is a place where most you have clicked, you have opened up Zoom, and you have joined in. Now, from week 2 onwards, you won't have this section whereby you will be provided a link to join your lecture class. Instead, just right below the online class timetable, you have a Zoom link. So this is a single consistent link that we will be using it throughout the semester. So on Wednesday, 2 to 4 p.m., if you are attending the class, which you should, by the way, if you're attending it, please, you'll have to click here. Same thing on Fridays. So what will happen is I won't have to repeatedly go and create links on each and every week sections, and also it will avoid making the page of that particular week look a bit less messy. Okay, all good, everyone? All good?
Yes.
Next. Yes, all good. Any questions, any queries so far?
No, sir.
No? All right. Thank you. Now, so I will be your lecturer for CN 708 throughout the semester. We have another lecturer who would be joining us somewhere in the middle of the semester, just in case if I won't be around. Generally, we have a contingency plan due to the current situation. Let's say if any of our staffs that get seriously sick, let's make it specific. If he or she catches COVID-19, so a replacement would be coming in straight away. So just in case if something goes wrong, so the other person will be entering and conducting this course. Meanwhile, I will be your lecturer. Okay, so my name is Monil Gounder, and this is my email address. So you're most welcome to drop me an email for any questions or any inquiries. Now, do note this, that all emails shall be responded within 24 hours time frame. So if you drop me an email, I'll make sure that email is corresponded within 24 hours. Just in case if I do not reply to any of the emails within 24 hours, do assume that I have not received the email. Either it's through net issues, or let's say if I have missed onto it, accidentally deleted it, or if the email has entered my junk folder, okay, please do resend me an email. So I will ensure to reply within every 24 hours. By the way, this 24 hours time frame is for weekdays only. For weekends, just like every one of you, weekends is a bit more relaxed. So from Monday to Friday within 24 hours time frame. On weekends, based on availability basis, I will be corresponding to an email. Okay. Also, do note this: if you're just sending me email with certain information and no questions, I will still be acknowledging your email just to let you know that I have received the email. If I do not acknowledge it, that means I have not received the email. Sounds fair enough? All right, let's have a look at our course descriptor, or UD as we normally call it. Okay, so I am generally based in Lautoka campus. So just in case if we happen to go on face-to-face mode somewhere in the middle of the semester or towards the end, so I will be based in Namaka campus for a day or two, and I will let you know where, which office and what time and what day. So lectures and our tutorials, we have confirmed it is on Wednesday from 2 to 4 p.m. and our tutorial is on Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. For consultation time, okay, our consultation time is also on Friday between 2 to 4 p.m. But you're most welcome to drop me an email. Prerequisite. The prerequisite for this course is CN 502, Information Systems in Organizations. Now, why CN 502? Generally in CN 502, there's a brief introduction given about information systems, and this course is Management Information Systems. So just in case if you have not done CN 502, still right, because at the moment the university has removed the clause of all prerequisites. In other words, if you have not done CN 502, you can still do CN 708. However, you might need to work a bit extra compared to the ones who have already done CN 502. Don't worry, you'll be able to do well. Okay, and if you go down, okay, so these are the learning outcomes for the entire course. So throughout the semester, we want to ensure that we are able to learn all this. So we should be able to carry out an awareness of the enormous opportunities made possible by the right relationship between business and technology. So this is generally what the entire course is about: how businesses they interact with technology and how technology is used to interact with customers and vice versa. 2 is utilize the technical foundation of management information systems. 3, demonstrate and evaluate different types of enterprise information systems and their role in helping firms reach their strategic goals. What are strategic goals? These are high-level goals or the long-term goals that our organization will want to meet over a period of time. For example, if I am running a marketing company, so the strategic goal is within about 5 years, my marketing company should be able to digitalize all its services. So that could be one of the strategic goals. So we want to learn that in this particular course. And the 4th learning outcome is analyze trends in MIS. The long form for MIS is Management Information System. So the textbook that we're using is Management Information Systems by Baltazan P. Phillips. The publication is from McGraw-Hill Publication. Just in case if you need access to this particular book, do feel free to let me know. Drop me an email, or you can also drop me a message on Moodle, and I'll alert the library team to provide you with an e-copy. Now we'll go straight down. So these are the learning outcomes for specific weeks and the things that you'll be covering up in each and every week, all the way till week 14. Now, your assessments. We have broken down your assessments into 50%. So 50% is your coursework and 50% comes from the final examination. If you're fully running on online mode throughout the semester, so you will have a online final assessment. Now, the online final assessment will generally consist of multiple choice questions, true and false. You have short answer and long answer questions, and 3 essay questions. The 3 essay questions could be treated like an assignment, whereby the students will be given a week or 2 to complete those essays. However, the other components, multiple choice, true and false, short answers, long answer questions, they will be like an online quiz. Now, from here, on weekly basis, you have a quiz. Now, you'll notice that right underneath your lecture notes, so you have a lecture notes, you have a quiz here. Okay, so this quiz basically contributes towards 15% throughout the semester from week, it says week 2, but I've started with week 1, so week 1 till week 13. Okay, so all throughout. Okay, so you'll have the quiz for each and every lecture. Now, generally, in some of the weeks, you might notice is that some of the lectures are divided between 2 or 3 weeks. In that case, you'll only have 1 quiz for that specific lecture. So it's not basically on weekly basis, it's more on lecture basis. In total, there are 10 sets of lecture notes. So that means you'll have 1.5 multiplied by 10, which gives you a total of 15. So 15 quiz. And the very good thing, I would say good, or the advantage point about this quiz is this. Okay, now the quiz has opened up already on Monday, but it closes on the 30th of October. Now the 30th of October is the very last day of the very last week of the semester. In other words, this quiz is open throughout the semester, so you can take as much time as possible to complete this quiz. However, I would say try to do it once, try to attempt this quiz when things are still fresh in your mind. For example, if you have just finished the lecture notes and you have put down some notes and hints here and there, I would suggest to go and attempt the quiz. So in that way, you are done with it straight there and then, rather than bringing it throughout the semester. Because the more you drag it, the more load it will be over the period of time. So your next assessment, you have a critique writing. Now this is due in week 5. So most likely this critique question will be released somewhere around week 3, early week 3, or at the end of week 2. Carries 5% towards your coursework. After that, you'll have your mid-semester exam, which will be worth 15%, and it will be held in week 7. So week 7, you will not be having any lecture or tutorial classes. Instead, we'll be running revision classes. And you have a research project, which is due in week 14. So this carries 10% towards your coursework. And also you have the project presentation. This particular project that you're doing, the presentation is worth 5%. Now, if you're thinking how will we go around doing presentations, I'll let you know in due time. Most likely you'll have to record your presentations, or we can do it over Zoom, whichever is easier. Any questions so far? No questions? All of you okay with it? All of you okay with what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So if you're always okay with what I'm saying, so that's even easier for me. Okay. Now, the due dates, I've mentioned the due dates of the lecture-based quizzes. Okay, basically the due date is on the 30th of October for all the quizzes. Now, do notice this: the very last quiz that will be somewhere around week 13 and 14. you will only have 1 week to complete that quiz. So that's the disadvantage, because your semester finishes off on the 30th of October. So let's say if the quiz is released on week 14, so you'll only have 5 to 6 days to complete that particular quiz. So that is a disadvantage point. So bearing that into mind, please do not drag your lecture-based quizzes for a very long period of time. Apart from that, the other due dates, now this is what I'll do. Okay, if you have had already looked at the announcements, so there are a few things on late submissions. There are a few things on deductions on identical submissions. Just in case if 2 or 3 of you copy your assessments from one another, there's a deduction criteria for it. Do go over it. And also for late submissions, there is normally deduction for late submissions. However, if there's a genuine case, please do feel free to let me know before the due date. Do not tell me after the due date that you were sick. Okay, but because what I'm expecting is when I'm giving the assessments, the students should start the assessments as early as possible. Okay, so just in case, if let's say if you're generally sick, if there's any unforeseen circumstances in the family, or worse comes to worse, if you're infected with COVID-19 or something like that, inform it to me as early as possible. It's very simple. If you find writing emails very difficult, just drop me a message in Moodle. That should be easy. Also, for Moodle, try to install the Moodle app in your mobile phones. Zoom apps also, you can download Zoom app in your mobile phones as well. That will make things way more easier. Okay, all good so far? Yes, no, all good? Now, next up is on your gradebook. Let's say if you have attempted your lecture-based quiz 1, as soon as you finish up your quiz 1, the quiz is generally set up in a way that it will mark itself. So as soon as you're finished, you should be able to see your mark.
All good, sir.
Okay, thank you. So if you have finished your quiz, you should be able to see your marks straight away in your gradebook. So at the moment, when I'm clicking on gradebook, what I'm noticing is I'm noticing all your names and IDs. So generally, if, let's say, if you are viewing yours, for example, let's say this is your gradebook, so you should be able to see your marks straight away. All the quizzes, the weekly based quizzes, the marks will assemble here. Creative writing will come in here, your mid-semester exam, and so forth. And you should be able to track your coursework while you're within the semester. Now, I don't know how you do it with the other units. Probably your lecturers might be putting up an Excel spreadsheet with your course marks or your coursework marks. Now, I won't be doing that. Simply, you have to just go and view your gradebook. We'll try to be as digital as possible. Moreover, for your weekly structure of how your Moodle shall be, this is a common structure except for this lecture feature. So at the beginning of each and every week, I will be dropping you an announcement, something like this. So your announcement will tell you what all things you have to do. For example, for week 1, I've given in a bit of announcement here. For week 1, you are to attend your Zoom-based lecture class. Please refer to the CIAN 708's online class timetable. After that, the second thing that you need to do is you need to attempt your lecture-based quiz, which carries 1.5% towards your coursework. Then you will attempt tutorial questions. By the way, the tutorial questions do not carry any mark towards your coursework. They don't. And the fourth one is participate in your tutorial discussion session. That is the Zoom class. So basically, this is the overview of the CIAN 708 Moodle shell. And I think overall we'll have fun learning new things. And I hope you all will enjoy the class. Now, before we begin with the lecture class, I'll give you close to about 2 minutes. If you have any questions in regards to the Moodle shell, in terms of your timetable, your assessments, your due dates, your gradebook, how would you contact me, okay, the Zoom link, and the weekly structure. Take 2 minutes and then come up with questions or queries. We'll discuss that and then we'll move on to the lecture notes. Okay, 2 minutes. It's 2:20 at the moment. You have time to 2:22. Let's take 2 minutes. If you have questions, feel free to ask. No questions, anyone? Okay, if no questions, can we proceed then? Okay, I'm guessing this is one of those courses whereby I'll be talking with myself. Generally, I teach 2 more units. The students there are very interactive, as in like they will be asking questions, they will be corresponding, so feel free to ask. Yeah, feel free to ask questions. Or if you have any comments, feel free to throw in comments as well. I'm most happy to accommodate those. Okay, all good, sir. Well understood. Thank you, Shalini. All right, so let's begin. Okay, thank you, Johnny. Now, the name of this entire course, some of you might call it unit, generally it's supposed to be called as course, and 708 is a course. The main focus of this entire course is on management information systems. Now, management information systems generally is a type of an information system. Now then, what is an information system? An information system is generally a collection of hardware, software, people, procedure, and processes. So when you collaborate all the things together, you come up with a computerized function or computerized system called as information system. So management information system is one of it. The major purpose of any management information system would be to assist a business to run things according to their aim, according to their goals, according to their missions, or according to their visions. Let me give an example. Let's say FNU is an organization. Now, the major motive or mission for FNU is to become the largest education provider in the South Pacific. So what FNU would need to do is they would need to run their processes as precisely and accurately as possible to ensure they can get to their mission. So FNU employs different types of information systems. For example, one of the information systems that FNU employs is a student management system. So the student management system basically keeps record of all the student details, including your own student ID, your date of birth, the courses or the programs that you're enrolled in, which courses you're doing in a particular semester, and when do you graduate. Moreover, apart from the graduation, you have your internship program, your projects, and we try to keep a tab on you. Mostly, we do try to keep a tab on you as to where you're employed and your employability skills. So this is one of the things that information system, management information systems helps FNU with. So likewise, different organizations and different types of organizations, they have different types of management information systems. So therefore, we'll be looking at this in today's class. Now, business-driven MIS. Now, computing in the information age. What is an information age? Information age is basically a world of information. Is more likely we are saying that everything is digitalized. Now, what things are digitalized about you? Generally, your qualifications are digitalized. They are stored somewhere. Your even your identity is digitalized. to the use of PIN numbers. Even what you'll notice is that even the vaccination process that is going on at the moment is also digitalized. The information is there somewhere in the computer system. Okay, so with businesses, they have this extra burden of computing in the information age. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be also looking at the challenge of departmental companies and the management information system solutions. We'll also look at business strategy, identifying competitive advantages, the 5 forces model, evaluating industry attractiveness, the 3 generic strategies, choosing a business focus, and value chain analysis. So we'll have a look at all this in today's class. Slide number, so the learning outcomes is describe the information age and the differences between data, information, business intelligence, and knowledge. Second learning outcome is explain systems thinking and how management information systems enable business communication. So we'll have a look at all this as your learning outcome for this particular lecture. Now, computing in the information age. Now, some interesting facts over here. Did you know the movie Avatar? I hope you still remember the movie Avatar. A few years back, it was released. The movie took over 4 years to make, and it cost around $450 million. I'm not talking about $450,000. I'm talking about $450 million. That is the total cost of making that movie. Now, also, Lady Gaga, one of the famous singers, her real name is Joanne Angelina Geminotta, and it costs $2.6 million for a 30-second advertising time slot during the Super Bowl. Now, Super Bowl is one of the major tournaments in the US, so it costs around $2.6 million to have a 30-second advertisement. Now, why we're looking at all these things? Now, just by looking at all these things, there are few conclusions that we can make. One, the value of information. That is, it's very costly to disseminate information. The word disseminate would mean is give out information or display information. Okay, now movies, they give out information. Okay, advertisement give out information. Now, just about the name of that lady, the singer over there, Lady Gaga. Okay, her name could have made a big impact, the name itself. Okay, but she chose to use a trendy name, so the name itself sounds very attractive. And also, we should know is how much competitiveness we have in terms of information. If you give out right information at the right time, you can end up making millions and millions of dollars in a large business arena. But if you tend to give out wrong information at the wrong time, it could lead towards a doomsday for your business. So this is some of the general information. Like, for example, if you look at the movie Avatar, even though it costed $450 million, it made billions of dollars. Okay, so these advertisements, which cost $2.6 million for a 30-second slot, okay, with $2.6 million invested, also you might be earning billions of dollars. Next slide. Competing in the information age. Fact. Fact is the confirmation or validation of an event or an object. In simple terms, fact is something that is valid or something that is true. Sometimes we say the fact is, so that means something that is true. Information age, the present time during which infinite quantities of facts are widely available to anyone who can use a computer. Now, when you talk about information age, we're talking about a world of information. Success or failure heavily relies on the information that you give out. So we are currently living in an information age. For example, look around you. With COVID-19, everything is online, whereby you used to go and buy things from a physical shop. Normally, when you go and buy things, we call it as a brick and mortar business model. Now, that business model has changed into an online mode, whereby you can order things off social media sites, or you can purchase things using credit cards. So this is what we call it as an information age. Examples of power of business and technology. Now, Amazon. I hope you have heard about Amazon. It's an e-commerce website. Now, Amazon initially was not a technology-based website, or even it is at the moment, it is not a technology-based website. So the primary focus of Amazon at the moment is to sell goods and services online. Now, this company is based in the US. Moreover, when Amazon started, it only started with selling books. Once it realized that the era of selling hard copy books came to an end, they started selling ebooks. And then over time, they realized that ebooks started to be widely available and for free. So they started diverting their business into more products and services. Now it is one of the biggest e-commerce sites, competing with the likes of eBay and AliExpress or Alibaba. Now Netflix is also not a technology company, but it is still striving with the information that it is providing. The information that it is providing is videos. It allows people to rent videos. Now, at the moment, it's more on subscription basis. If you have subscription to Netflix, you can watch any movies that is in their platform. Now, Zappos is also an e-commerce site, but the site is generally used for selling shoes. Now, they are not technology-based companies as well, but they're still striving. Why? Because they are making right use of the information at the right time and in the right way. Internet of Things. Internet of Things is a world where interconnected internet-enabled devices or things have the ability to collect and share data without human intervention. Now, when we talk about Internet of Things, basically what we can conclude here is devices, they're connected to one another, and they're able to collect data from one device to the other and are able to share data within those devices without any human interferences. For example, have you heard of Google Analytics? Google Analytics is one of those measurement tools. For example, if I would be owning a website and I want to know how many individuals come up on my website on regular basis, from which country and at what times. So Google Analytics does that work for me. All I have to do is I have to insert in a script at the back end of the website, and the machines will do its work. The technology will do its work without any human interferences. So that is an example of Internet of Things. Now, machine to machine refers to the devices that connect directly to the other devices. I think machine to machine is pretty simple to understand. Computing in the information age. If I say modern age or information age, they mean the same thing. Okay, the core drivers of the information age. You have data, you have data, you have information, you have business intelligence, and then you have knowledge. So these four elements are the main working arms of information age. When I say the main working arms is that what does our arms do? It allows us to do things. So likewise over here, so these four elements does things for businesses. So we'll have a look at those. Data. Data are raw facts that describe the characteristics of an event or object. Raw facts, whatever things that are inserted into a computer. For example, if you're using Microsoft Word, so you're typing something in Microsoft Word, that's a data, raw facts that you're entering. Structured data. Structured data is stored in a traditional system, such as a relational database or spreadsheet. Now, with structured data, what happens is that your data is basically stored in specific formats, whereby if you have names in one column, so the names will be entered in one specific column. Everything which is of monetary value would be inserted in a specific order, and likewise. So a structured data comes in two specific forms. One is machine-generated data created by machine without human intervention or without human interferences, and human-generated data, data that humans in interaction with computers generate. A good example for that would be machine-generated would be Google Analytics that I told you just a while ago, and human-generated data is more likely what you are entering in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. Pardon me, just let me go back. Now, what I'll also try to do is I will try to tell you what things are important and things you should know So what you can do is you can mark those down, or you can probably write it in a piece of paper and use that for your revision purpose. For example, do know what is information age. So this is one important element over here that you should know. Information age. You should also know what is Internet of Things. So make a note of the Internet of Things. It's also important to know the 4 drivers of information age and their definitions. So do note it down, the core drivers of information age, and we'll be discussing the definitions in the next few slides. Data is pretty simple, raw facts, okay, and then structured data. You should know what structured data is and the 2 types of structured data, machine generated and human generated. So unstructured data, okay, not defined and does not follow a specific or specified format. So unstructured data is directly opposite of structured data. Structured data is in order. Everything that is of common topic, they come right underneath one another. Unstructured data is all scattered data, whereby it takes a lot of time and effort to collect, analyze, and process things for decision making. So in this particular slide, if you have a look at the table, what type of data is that? Structured or unstructured? Let's hear from one of you. Is it structured or unstructured? Anyone? Structured or unstructured? Okay, now the data here is structured. Why structured? You can see all the dates in one specific order. Customer names are also in one order. Have a look at quantity. It's in one order as well. And everything that is of monetary value is in one specific order. All right, so also do note this. If it wasn't structured, you wouldn't know what is total sales and what is the total cost and what is the profit. If it's unstructured, all the data would be scattered anyhow. So that's the difference between structured and unstructured. Now, in relation to data, we have something called as big data. Big data is a collection of large, complex data sets, including structured and unstructured data, which cannot be analyzed using traditional database methods and tools. The name itself defines how much data is in big data. It's big, it's massive. Now, generally, we're not talking about probably 1 kilobyte, 1 megabyte, or terabyte of data. We're talking about hundreds of terabytes. We're talking about hundreds of petabytes. You know what petabyte is? Petabyte is also it's a unit of memory. Okay, a unit of memory. For example, we have byte, we have kilobyte. After that, we have megabytes, and then gigabyte. After gigabyte, we have what? Your flash drives. Okay, so you have, let's say, 15 GB. So after GB came what? TB, terabyte. So you have terabyte. After terabyte, you have petabyte. After petabyte, you have exabyte. After exabyte, you have zettabyte. And finally, you have yottabyte. If you want to know that, let me repeat that. You have byte, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte, petabyte, PATA byte, exabyte, EXA byte, zettabyte, ZETTA byte, yottabyte, YOTTA. Don't be surprised if I ask you this in any of the quiz questions. Snapshot is basically a view of data at a particular point in time. Just like we take a snapshot in our mobile phones, take a screenshot. Same thing here, but in this case, in regards to data, it is the view of data at a particular point in time. Information. So what is information then? So data is something that is raw, Information would be something that is processed. Okay, data is something that is raw, and information is something that is processed. The definition is given here, and you should know what is the definition of information. These are some of the things that generally you would learn in CYAN 502. Okay, so those of you who have not done CYAN 502, you'll have to put in a tiny bit of extra effort in here. So information is data converted into a meaningful and useful context. Something that is meaningful. Let's have a look at the table. So if you look at the table, so who is, now let's say you have a business called Tony's Snack Company. So Tony sells snacks. And so who would be Tony's best customer in this case? Have a look at the table. Take a minute. Try to think about it. Make your brains work. Think about it. Who is Tony's best customer? If anyone would like to share the answer, you can message me by chat, or you can unmute and speak out. Tony's best customer? Anyone? Okay, Tony's best customer over there is 7-Eleven. This one. Why 7-Eleven? Why not Walmart? You can see that what you're doing is basically you are doing a sales of about 560,789, and 7-Eleven. Now, why 7-Eleven? Because you're making more money in terms of profit. Over here, this is the total amount of sales. This is the total amount of profit. So total sales does not necessarily mean you're making more money. Sometimes you're selling, let's say there are two products. One item you're selling for $10, the other item you're selling for $12. The item that you are selling for $10 has a cost of $1, so you're making $9 profit. So the item that you are selling for $12, the cost is, let's say, $10, so you're making $2 profit. So the one which makes more profit, that one would be the better product. So this is what it is. Now, let's say if Tony is selling products over here, which he is, which one is his best selling product? Best selling product. Yeah, what is Tony's best selling product by total sales? Is Ruffles. Okay, now why I'm asking you all these things is these figures over here, or this information, can assist Tony in many specific ways. One, the products in which he's making the most profit, he can target more of those items. So the ones which he's making more profit, he will want to sell more of those items. Also, let's say he has a customer who's giving him a lot of sales. For example, Walmart. It's giving him, okay, here, R-Cross, let's say. So they are making they're giving a sales of about $1.2 million. So what Tony could do is, so if they are buying items worth of $1.2 million, he could give some items as freebies to ensure to have customer retention, so business continues buying things from Tony. Okay. Also, when you have this information, you can identify which one is the weakest product or weakest selling item, in this case Pringles. So what Tony can do is, using the information, Tony can actually go and concentrate and try to strengthen it from its weak points. Next slide. Reports. A document containing data organized in a table matrix or graphical format, allowing users to easily comprehend and understand information. So report is basically a report of something, or a conclusion, or an inference. By the way, conclusion and inference, they mean the same thing. So conclusion of something, or a quick catch-up on business processes, That's what reports can be used for, or a quick measure of goals versus achievables. So these are some of the things that reports could be used for. The most specific one is, or the most important one is, the goals that was laid out for a specific month, let's say, and the report that comes out at the end of the month, and cross compare to see whether all the goals have been achieved or not. So these are some of the ways in which reports could be used. So there are two types of reports: static report, created once based on data that does not change. It's only for displaying. The dynamic report changes automatically during creation. So what happens with dynamic reports is that once you feed in data, the figures at the bottom keeps on changing. So those are dynamic reports. Business intelligence. Now, do take a note of this. You will need to learn what BI is, BI or business intelligence. Now, business intelligence is information collected from multiple sources such as suppliers, customers, competitors, partners, and industries that analyzes patterns, trends, and relationships for strategic decision making. So what BI does is that it takes in multiple variables, in some cases for large organizations, even hundreds of variables. When we say variables, different types of items, different types of informations. So it takes it, it analyzes it, and then comes up with trends or patterns here, patterns or trends, and allows you to make decisions. Simple terms, business intelligence is a use of information from multiple sources. It helps you to analyze and recognize patterns and trends to make strategic decision making. Okay, all good. So please do take note of BI. That's important. Business intelligence. Analytics. Analytics is a science of fact-finding decision making. Another word for analytics that I could quickly think of is statistics. So when we do analytics, you basically involve some type of statistic procedures in it. So analytics is more likely you trying to figure out few things from a set of data. So there are three types of analytics: descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. So we'll have a look at all three of those. Now, descriptive analytics are techniques that best describe past performance and history. Example, creating a report that includes charts and graphs that explains the data. So descriptive analytics focuses on past data to predict future or understand the business which is happening today. Descriptive focuses on past performance so that you are able to predict future or the current day scenario. That's descriptive. Do note that down. Predictive analytics, techniques that extract information from data and uses it to predict future trends and identify behavioral patterns. For example, using past sales data to predict future sales. So when you talk about predictive analytics, you're talking about it using past data to predict future trends. Now the difference between the two, descriptive also uses past data, predictive also uses past data. But descriptive not only focuses on future work, but focuses on today as well. Predictive is more like predict or forecast. Predictive is just focusing on past data to work on future trends. Prescriptive, techniques that create models indicating the best decision to make or course of action to take. For example, airline using past purchasing data as inputs into a model that recommends the best pricing strategy across all flights, allowing the company to maximize revenue. To simplify that, prescriptive analytics uses today's data to make optimal business decisions based on efficiency and effectiveness. Let me repeat that. Okay, prescriptive analytics uses today's data to make optimal means best decisions based on efficiency and effectiveness. So if you have a set of data and you know it works well, you know that brings in more revenue, make the most of the data. That's what prescriptive analytics is about. Now, knowledge. With knowledge, there are a few things that comes together with it. Okay, so when bundled together, with knowledge comes skills, experiences, and expertise coupled with information and intelligence that creates a person's intellectual resources. Like I mentioned, when we say knowledge, when we talk about knowledge, you're talking about skills, you're talking about experiences, you're talking about expertise, which is generally a sign of a successful individual. So like when we talk about a knowledge worker, you're talking about an individual who possess these skills, experiences, and expertise. Individual, definition here, individual valued for their ability to interpret and analyze information. So knowledge worker, somebody who possess these skills. Now let me give an example. Most likely rather a question, okay? So let's say you have a sales staff who has worked for the organization for, let's say, 12 plus years, and all of a sudden he's sick for at least 6 months. So just because he's been sick, his sales income has gone really, really down. So comes a new manager and he looks at his records and sees that his sales amount or sales revenue is really down. And in fact, his expenses is increasing because there's very little income coming from his end and more money spent on wages. So should you think the new manager should fire the salesperson or keep him or adjust somehow? Okay, now let's hear some of you talk. If you want me to repeat the question, let me repeat it again. So you have a sales staff, he's sick for 6 months. Now this particular sales staff has been working in the organization for 12 plus years. A new manager comes in, sees that, oh, this person is sick for about more than 6 months and he's not generating any revenue. So should the new manager fire him or should he adjust somehow? Let's hear one of you speak. If you don't speak, I'll start calling out names. Anyone? Just throw in a general. See, no answer is a wrong answer. We're still learning. So what do you think? Should he fire or should he still keep the staff? Think about this topic, knowledge worker. And this staff is working for 12 plus years. I hope that you are still listening to me in terms of you have not logged in into Zoom and I'm seeing you as active participants, but you are away from your mobile phones or away from your computer screens.
So I think he should keep the worker.
No, no one? Okay, now generally what I would feel is, I feel the new manager should give him some time to get well. Now, since he's working for 12 plus years and this particular manager has just come in new, seems like he is more, the salesperson is more of a knowledgeable worker or knowledge worker compared to the manager. Given some time, try to allow him to recuperate or get well. And once it's fine, should be able to do well, or ask him to take a leave, sick leave without pay or something like that. Once it's really, really well, then he can come. What do you think? Same thing? You have the
Yes,
same idea as mine?
Yes, sir.
Yep. I had another question. Hopefully somebody answers. Now, what I want you to do is, let's say if you're working somewhere, think of a knowledge worker. If you're working somewhere, think of a knowledge worker and talk about them, as in like, what is their sense of knowledge about, or how knowledgeable they are, what are their skills, their experiences and expertise. Let's hear from some of you now. Anyone who's working and you'd like to speak about a knowledge worker from your workplace? No? Yes. Ritika, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. We have come across with the
Hello,
scenarios
Ritika,
where, yes, sir. Can you hear me? Hello? Sir, can you hear me?
Sorry, Ritika, I'm not able to hear you.
Okay. Now you can hear me? You can hear me, sir? Hello? Hello?
Okay, Ritika, can you speak again, please?
You can hear me now, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Uh,
Sorry, sorry.
Sorry about that. I think,
No, it was
yeah,
actually
because of,
no, actually it was my computer. There was the volume was really down. Okay.
okay. Even we have bad network at this side as well.
Okay.
So I have come across with the experienced people working for 15 years, and now they have resigned, and then they have gone for new opportunities in different companies. We have come across for that, and they were working as a QA managers, like quality assurance managers, and after which, like it's a pharmaceutical background I'm talking about at the moment.
Okay.
And yeah, and what happened actually, without the QA managers or quality people, we are not able, or you are not supposed to dispatch any of the items from our warehouse, and either we are not supposed to, production is not supposed to be generated without the quality assurance or insurance people.
Okay.
So now, yeah, after QA manager, after which he was like quite experienced guy, and then later on he was promoted as an operation manager as well.
Okay, Ritika.
So
Sorry for interfering in the middle. Is there any skills or experience about him or her that you really admire and you feel that qualifies him or her as a knowledge worker?
yes, it's in that the way he was presenting himself during audit basis. It's like and then figure that out when the production was going on. It's like without any specific like for example, if a machine is not totally cleaned or sanitized properly, you are not supposed to start any production for that. So and if a small thing is being missed out through using a protocol, that guy strictly stop all the production, even though it's a middle of that production going on.
Okay,
And for that, the customer, yeah, customer can get a perfect and the good product what he's expecting the other side. So that admires me a lot in that when he was performing that role.
okay, Ritika, thank you. Thank you for sharing the piece of information with us all. Now, I'm sure all of us, we have somebody at work, or probably sometimes there's somebody even at school whom we admire. But we must realize that when we talk about knowledge workers, these are individuals who are normally in the working class people. So there are skills like what Ritika had just mentioned, the professionalism, the conduct, the approach, the presentation that this particular person has, or the skills that he possesses that qualifies him as knowledge worker. So thank you for sharing with this, Ritika, and it's good to hear from you. So we'll proceed now. What I'll do is I'll give chance to everyone to speak every once in a while. So if you are thinking, okay, if you're coming to the Zoom class and then you'll be quiet and then you'll go away, so I'll start calling out names very, very slowly, and probably you can speak. And please don't be scared to speak. Now, this is a 700 level unit, so I'm assuming straight after, let's say at the end of the semester or very soon, you will be graduating. So when you go out workplaces, you'll have to speak in one way or the other. So this is the time where you can get your experience. Moving on. Now, the challenge are departmental companies. Okay. Now, what we're noticing here is we have common departments working independently. So when you talk about working independently, that means they are working separately. So you have an accounting department. Now let's go and read the definitions, what accounting departments they actually do. So accounting departments records, measures, and reports monetary transactions, the money people in an organization, and then you have finance. Now, finance and accounting in some organizations they're merged into one. In other organizations, they are completely different. So finance tracks strategic financial issues, including money, banking, credit, investments, and assets. You have human resources, generally the people department in an organization maintains policies, plans, and procedures for the effective management of employees. And you have marketing, the marketing people who actually put the product out there in the world. Okay, support sales by planning, pricing, and promoting goods or services. You have operations management, people who actually ensure that the products are produced as per the process structure. So manages the process of converting or transforming all resources into goods or services. And sales department performs the functions of selling goods or services. Now you don't need to actually remember all these definitions, and I don't expect you to, but do generally know, in general terms, do generally know what each of these departments are. For example, if I say marketing department, so you should give an idea, okay, this is what marketing team do. They have products produced in an organization, they go out and they promote the products. How do they promote? Advertising, social media, sometimes through road shows, banners, advertisements, so forth. Okay, so just do have a general idea. Now, the thing here is, what you're noticing is these departments, they are working independently. They are working away from one another. So what are some problems or issues that can generally come up when departments work independently? The thing is this, all of them, they are working on similar product. For example, you have the operations people who basically produce the product. The sales people would sell that product. The marketing people would market the product. So after it's sold, the accounting department will basically track in, the finance department will see how profitable it is, and the human resources people will hire and fire these individuals in the organization. So they're working on a common idea or common information, but if they are working independently, their way of perceiving things or their way of interpreting things would be different. Now, what do you think? What do you reckon? Would the organization work properly if people work independently? It's like accounting people, hey, keep away from the finance department. They're a different department. So there's competition between these two departments. Human resources, oh, we are the people management people. We are the people management department of the organization. Be scared of us. Or sales team, we're doing sales. We're getting more income. We are the important people. And all these departments, they work differently. So what happens is that one common information, common products and services, but different interpretation. So the solution to this is bringing in a management information system. So when we have a management information system, more like a function, a computerized function within the organization. So what happens is that all these departments, they're able to work collectively. So you have a computerized system which keeps track of all this information in one specific order. So now, let's say the sales team sees, okay, okay, how much money is the product that I'm advertising is actually earning. So, oh, sorry, the product that I'm actually selling is earning. So they're able to track it from the accounting department. Then we'll see, okay, right? So product A is able to earn this much of profit. So product B is not doing well. So product B needs to be marketed more. So they allege the marketing team. And you'll see is, what you see is generally the bringing in of an information systems provides a good solution to these common departments within a company. Now, instead of working independently, they are working interdependently. Now, these two are two opposing words: independent, separate. Dependently, meaning they are dependent on one another. Okay. Any questions? Any queries? Now, the MIS solution. Okay, so you have goods and services. I hope this is very easy and you are all able to know what goods are. When you talk about goods, you're talking about tangible items, example, cars, groceries, and clothing. And if you're talking about services, you're talking about services. For example, you have teaching, you have waiting tables, you have cutting hair. So these are all examples of services. And I hope you're able to differentiate between these two. Now, systems thinking. Systems thinking, you have input, process, output. So let's say if you are making burger, I wonder how many of you like burgers. Okay, so if you're making burger, so the input is lettuce, tomatoes, you have patty, you have buns, and ketchup. So the process is you're cooking the patty and putting all the ingredients together, and it comes into the final product, the output, which is a hamburger. Okay, so the system generally thinks in terms of input, process, output. But how do you know whether your input is correct? How do you know whether your process that you're performing is correct? How do you know whether the output that you are coming up with, that's correct? So what happens is that with the use of MIS, you come up with the process, something called as feedback. So let's discuss systems thinking first, and do note this down, probably you might need to know this. So when we talk about systems thinking, it is a way of monitoring the entire system by viewing multiple inputs being processed or transformed to produce outputs while continuously gathering feedback on each part. So when you are putting in data, you have some feedback. When you are processing it, you have some feedback. And when you are coming up with the final product, you have some feedback on that as well. Now, the importance of feedback over here is it helps the system maintain its stability. When we say stability, more likely it ensures or provides end-to-end view of how operations work together to create a final product or service. Think of it something like that. A system is able to provide feedback. For example, when you are operating a car, so when you're operating a car, what is the feedback that you're getting? When you're pressing into the accelerator, you know that the car either moves forward or backward. When you're pressing brake, you know the car would slow down or either stop. So that's the feedback that you're getting. Likewise, if you're operating a washing machine, okay, so if the washing machine, after it's washed, so it beeps a sound, you get a feedback, all right, okay, the clothes, it's washed, right? So that is a form of feedback. So likewise, when you are trying to put in data into an information system, and when you have some sort of feedback, it gives you an idea, okay, whether things are going well or not. While you're processing it, it should give you a feedback as well. Likewise with the output process. Another important thing about these feedbacks are, let's say if you are the one who is performing all the work, and if you leave and the other person comes in within the organization, through the use of these feedbacks, the other person will be easily able to cope up as well. So management information systems. So this is the main reason why we have this course. Okay. Management information system is a business function, okay, like an accounting or a human resources, which moves information about products. Sorry, it moves information about people, products, and processes across the company to facilitate decision-making and problem solving. So it moves the information within the organization. Now, we must know that management information system, it is not a technology. Well, it is a technology, but more of a business function. Okay, large organizations, they have a separate department for performing MIS functions, just like we have HR departments, accounting departments. Big organizations, they have a different department called MIS department. FNU has it, for example. We have a MIS department that basically looks after the Moodle features, where the Moodle and your user accounts and everything are going well. Okay, so this is one of it. So what does it generally do? Okay, it ensures that people, products, and processes across the company, it provides information to them to facilitate in decision making and problem solving. Please note down this information here. Management information system, please do note down on this definition. Very common question in the exams. MIS department roles and responsibilities. So we'll quickly go over these roles and responsibilities. So you have Chief Information Officer or CIO, oversees all users of IT and ensures the strategic alignment of IT with business goals and objectives. So the Chief Information Officer, their main job description is they have a look at the strategic alignment. Strategic is a long-term goals. So they ensure that all the use of IT within the organization, they meet the long-term goals and objectives. Chief Knowledge Officer, responsible for collecting, maintaining, and distributing the organization's knowledge. So this person, okay, now over here, organization's knowledge is basically information, all the information that is created within the organization. So this particular individual maintains it. Chief Privacy Officer, responsible for ensuring the ethical and legal use of information. Now, it's not Chief Privacy Officer is different from a security officer. When I say security, somebody who maintains the username and password, ensures there's no hacking or cracking of the system. Now, those two are two individual occupations, two separate occupations rather. So the privacy officer ensures that whatever information the organization is using, they're ethical and legal. Okay, there you go. You have a chief security officer. Now, these are the guys who are responsible for ensuring the security of the IT system. So they ensure, okay, so there's no unauthorized access to the system. There's no hackers. There's no virus in the system. So these are the individuals. You have chief technology officer. The chief technology officer is someone who is responsible for ensuring the throughput, speed, accuracy, availability, and reliability of IT. So this person, chief technology officer, is the one who looks after the entire IT structure of an organization. Now, there's a word here, throughput. Okay, in IT terms, throughput generally means the amount of information that goes in and out of a information system or in and out of a computerized system. That's throughput. So some other individuals who work under the chief technology officer, they are chief intellectual property officer. Intellectual property are the new ideas, unique ideas. Chief automation officer. So these individuals are those who ensures that the automation of tasks, they are maintained. And you have chief user experience officer. So these are the ones who ensures that the users of the organization, they go through a clean and neat experience while using the computerized systems. So the next section of our lecture 1 is on business strategy. Learning outcomes, explain why competitive advantages are temporary. Competitive advantage, I hope you know what it is. If you aren't, we'll be discussing those just in a while. Identify the 4 key areas of SWOT analysis. SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT analysis. Describe Porter's 5 forces model and explain each of the 5 forces. Compare Porter's 3 generic strategies and demonstrate how a company can add value by using Porter's value chain analysis. Now, business strategy. When we talk about business strategy, we are generally talking about a leadership plan that achieves a specific set of goals or objectives. So business strategy, generally most of the businesses, they have strategies in terms of how they can survive in a market. Now, with the amount of competition that is out there, now why competition? Because you'll notice is that the most common businesses, they have a lot of competitors. Think about a restaurant business, so many restaurants all around. Think about a business, for example, a barber shop, so many of them all around. Think about a market stall selling, let's say, selling cucumbers, so many. So even the little businesses, they have competition. So in order to be ahead of the competition, there needs to be business strategy. And some examples are given how businesses, they have this strategy in place. So the first one given there is developing new products or services, entering new markets, increasing customer loyalty. Now, developing new products and services is whereby the organization tries to come up with new products and services itself. So if you are, example, if you're just selling shoes, you also sell shoe polish, or you come up with, apart from shoes, you come up with flip-flops. or you start selling a bit of bags as well. Very common. Now, entering new markets. Now, what does that mean? Entering new markets. It does not mean you are in any market, you go into Lutoka market as well. No, it doesn't mean in that sense. What it means is that if your market was generally targeted towards, if you're selling products which are generally targeted towards adults only, for example, you are selling, let's say, ladies' dresses only. So now you try to specialize in menswear as well. So entering new markets, increasing customer loyalty. So how do you increase customer loyalty? Giving freebies, discounts, freebies, discounts, or customer service. Okay, customer loyalty is basically increased through these activities. Attracting new customers. Now, attracting new customers can also be a good business strategy. So how do you attract new customers? You do adequate marketing. So if you were just marketing using billboards, now you can market through the use of social media. Or what you can do is, now what many organizations do to attract new customers is they get involved in social work. So generally they attract people and increasing sales. So the main motive for any business, if they want to make profit, is increase sales, bring in the money. That's what they're after. Okay, and in fact, that's what the business motive should be. If you are a profit-making organization, you want to make more sales. So generally, more sales means more revenue. More revenue means more profit. Okay, so somehow or the other, find ways to try to increase sales. Okay, let's skip this slide and move to the next one. Right, identifying competitive advantages. Now, competitive advantage, you'll need to know the definition of that. So please put a note somewhere here. A product or service that an organization's customers place a greater value than similar offering from a competitor. That means you have an extra edge than your competitor. For example, let's look at the common examples. Vodafone and Digicel here in Fiji. So if you have Vodafone coming up with a promotion, Digicel comes up with a similar or better promo. Okay, so that's competitive advantage. If you have Tapu's coming up with sales, so as soon as they are about to begin their sales, so you'll hear Prouds telling advertising over the media, they have their sale next week. So they dilute the mind of individuals. So that's competitive advantage. Now, first mover, it basically first mover advantage, also know this, occurs when an organization can significantly impact its market share by being first to market with a competitive advantage. It's more like being the only provider in the market or being the first provider in the market. Now, you must have known Vodafone has basically they had the privilege to lead Fiji in terms of mobile services and internet packages for quite a number of years. And then suddenly Digicel came in, and then Ink Mobile came in, and then TFI was there, but they were just involved with the traditional wired phones, and they started specializing in mobile phones and with internet connection as well. So first mover advantage. That's the only company to enter or this the only company that is first to enter a specific market. Another one, can you think of any other company here in Fiji, which is the only company of a specific service or product? Anyone? If you can think of any company which has a first mover advantage. I can think of one or two. EFL, they are the only providers who provides us with the service of electricity. You have Tapu's and Prouds, they have their own specialized products. For example, Tapu's specializes in Nike. You have Jax that specializes in Adidas. I think Tapu's also has Adidas as well. For ladies, I think Tapu's is the MAC provider. There's makeup, cosmetics, and all those stuffs. So they're the only provider here in Fiji. So they have the first market advantage. Okay, so the first mover advantage. Please do take a note of competitive advantage and first mover advantage. Now, identifying competitive advantages. To identify if an organization has competitive advantages or not, so you have 4 ways to do that. One is to the use of SWOT analysis. Secondly, you have 5 forces model, Porter's 5 forces model, and then you have Porter's 3 genetic strategies, and then you have value chain analysis. Now, all of them, they help you in one way or the other to identify competitive advantages. Now, these are very traditional methods, but very effective methods still in use. Look at SWOT analysis. Now, SWOT analysis evaluates an organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to identify significant influences that would work for or against business strategies. So SWOT analysis, they look at strengths of an organization, they look at the weaknesses of an organization, they look at opportunities, and then they look at the strengths. So when you're looking at the SWOT analysis, generally the strength and the weaknesses, it's more of an internal factor. So strength and weakness, you try to look for it within the organization. The opportunities and the threats, they are external factors. That means that is found outside the organization. The 5 forces model, evaluating industry attractiveness. Okay, so the 5 forces that we have for Porter, we call it as Porter's 5 forces model. Okay, now in general terms, these forces, they are an easy framework to understand, and it offers a quick way to analyze a market. So it analyzes the market and tells you, okay, whether you are in a state of competitive advantage or not. So the 5 forces are, you have threat of substitute of products and services, you have the buyer power, you have the threat of new entrants, you have the supplier power, and lastly, you have the rivalry among existing competitors. So these are the 5 forces. So if you look at threat of substitute products, you're looking at the power of customers to purchase alternatives. Okay, these are explained later in the slides. Let's have a look at them. Now, please do know this, the 5 forces in the Porter's 5 forces model. First one, buyer power. You also need to know the definition for this. Now, generally, this is a very common question in the final assessments, or even you'll find it in your lecture-based quizzes. Okay, and most of it may be asked individually, or whereby you will be given a business scenario and you'll be asked to go and find the find some of the examples of these forces. Buyer power, the ability of buyers to affect the price of an item. That means, now, okay, just put it like this. Now, buyer power also may be known as customer power. That means how much power the customers have to affect the price of an item. So you have switching costs. So switching cost is manipulating costs that make customers reluctant to switch to another product. Now, today is Wednesday. Thursdays, you'll see all the supermarkets putting up their promotions up on social media or even in newspapers. So if New World comes up with a special, so Shop and Save will try to come up with a special that is even more cheaper than New World. So there is switching costs. The best example that I can give you for switching costs. Loyalty program, rewards based on amount of business they do with a particular organization. If you shop with Jack's, Tappools, Sprouts, is there any other? I can't think of any other apart from these 3 organizations. If you shop at these organizations, so the amount of shopping that you do, so for every $10 you spend, you get $1. So loyalty programs. So when you reach certain number of points, you can go and redeem those points for a specific item. So these are examples of loyalty programs. So such things such as switching costs and loyalty programs, they attract customers. So what happens is that, so a buyer basically has a control on the price of an item. Supplier power. The supplier's ability to influence the price they charge for supplies. Now, suppliers generally, when we talk about suppliers, are people who supply products to organizations. For example, if a supermarket is selling a specific brand of tuna, so a supplier would be supplying that brand of tuna to New World, for example. So supply chain consists of all the parties involved in procurement of a product or raw material. Now, supplier power is normally dependent on a number of things. Okay, it depends on a number of things. For example, if a supplier is a sole provider of a specific item, so more likely they will charge more. Think of it with EFL. So if EFL offers all of a sudden, instead of having, at the moment, I think they are charging about 38 cents or 39 cents per unit. If they decide they will increase the price from 39 cents to 45 cents, do we have a control over it? No, we don't. Why? Because they are the only supplier. So since they're the only supplier, they can charge as much as they want. Good thing is we have the government regulating that. However, if there's another one, let's go and have a look at a simple one such as clothing supplier. So let's say if S. Nangindas buys shirts, all of a sudden the supplier decides, instead of selling the shirt for about $15, they decide, okay, we'll sell it to $20 to S Nangindas or Harrison's. So what S. Nangindas or Harrison's will do is they'll go and start looking for other suppliers because there are so many here in Fiji, so many garment factories. So what happens is the supplier power is low. Able to get me? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Threat of substitute of products or services. Threat of substitute products or services is generally high when there are many alternatives to a product or service and low when there are few alternatives. So if there are many alternatives for a product, what you notice is that, okay, let's say the biscuits that you have, the breakfast crackers, okay, there's so many alternatives to it at the moment. In the market, there are about 3 or 4, I think 3, 4. So you have Punjas selling almost the same item, then comes in FMF, and then you have Lee's, and then now you have the new one, Baker's Fresh. So Baker's Fresh and Punjas, they are of the same company, but they are making a similar product. Why? To kill the competition. Okay, so generally when there are many alternatives, the threat to substitute a product or service is high. When there's no alternatives, for example, if I gave an example to selling the cosmetic item, the MAC brand items, so there's only one supplier, so the threat for substitute is very low. Threat of new entrants. Threat of new entrants high when it is easy for a new competitor to enter a market, and low when there are significant entry barriers. Now, entry barrier, a feature of a product or service that customers have come to expect, and entering competitors must offer the same for survival. Now, this is a very common example. Now, with very common businesses, for example, you have market stores, you have supermarkets, it's very easy to open up a new supermarket. So what happens is generally the threat level is high. However, when you have an entry barrier, for example, no other electrical company, electricity provider company can provide services in Fiji unless the government approves it. So there's an entry barrier. But the entry barrier is basically the compulsory features that particular new organization should have. So with EFL, so they have made their mark in Fiji. So let's say there comes a new company, ABC. So company ABC comes in, so the government has certain requirements that need to be met. If it's met, only then they can enter, otherwise they cannot. How many of you remember the phase when Bradbank came in? So Bradbank came in, they were in liaison with the Fiji government for about 3 or 4 years. After they had met all the requirements, then they started operating here in Fiji. Likewise, same thing with Digicel. So once they made the entry barrier, the compulsory feature, then they are able to enter the market. Rivalry among existing firms. So rivalry among existing competitors, high when competition is fierce in a market and low when competitors are more complacent. Product differentiation offers when a company develops unique differences in its products or services with the intent to influence demand. Now, your rivalry among competitive firms is normally high when there are too many similar types of businesses within the organization. And generally, it is low when there are very few businesses, or let's say no similar type of business in the market. Now, what these high competing organizations, what they do is generally they come up with products which is a bit different from the other products. So in terms of the biscuit companies, you'll see some of them, they'll come up with new features. Now, previously we used to have cookies. How many of you have seen that? Cookies, previously we used to have the plain ones, the coconut and the peanut ones. Now we have choc chips coming in as well. You have oats and honey, you have ginger and oats and so many. So what happens is that these businesses, they're trying to have a similar product with a bit of uniqueness to it. So that is how we can best describe rivalry among existing competitors. Now, analyzing the airline industry. So it says perform a Porter's 5 forces analysis for each of the following for a company entering the commercial airline industry. Now let's talk about it. In our case, let's talk about Fiji Airways, because Fiji Airways is the only airline company here in Fiji. And since there's no flight going overseas for tourists coming in or we going out, let's talk about Fiji Airways flying in locally. Nandi Suba, Nandi Lotoka, sorry, not Lotoka, Nandi Suba, Nandi Lambasa, and Sabu Sabu. Let's talk about it and let's try to analyze it. It says buyer power. So what do you think? The consumers, buyer power is basically talking about the amount of power that consumers or buyers have. Now, do they have a high power to choose the price or do they have a low power? Let's have answers flowing in. So do you think the customers, they have an influence over the price that Fiji Airways or Fiji Link offers to the general public of Fiji? High or low? When we say high, that means they have more power. That means they can influence the price. When we say low, that means they have low power. They cannot influence the price. High or low, people? Low. Okay, generally it's low. Why low? Because we have very few airline companies. I think there's Northern Airlines, which is currently closed. So Fiji Airways is the only one. So they are the only, let's say, only supplier in that case, the only provider. So they have the full market. They hold the market in terms of controlling the price. Now, supplier power. Supplier power in terms of here would be is, does when Fiji Airways, when they buy items, or in this case when they buy aeroplanes, do they have whether their supplier power is high or low? In this case, the supplier power is going to be high. Why? Because at the moment, because generally in Fiji we do not have any companies who supply aeroplanes. In overseas countries, yes, there are companies which supply Fiji Airways with the airplanes, but to meet the specific demands, there are very limited companies. So the supplier power is generally high. That means the supplier can control the price while selling aeroplanes to Fiji Airways. Now, threat of products or services. Now, for locally, our threat, do we have threat for Fiji Airways? In terms of no threat, yeah. In terms of airline companies, no threat. But if you look at other forms of transportations, yes, we do have threats. Because if let's say if someone is supposed to travel from Nandi to Suba, like I mentioned, let's say traveling locally, if someone is supposed to travel to Nandi to Suba, they can hire a taxi or get into a minibus or see. In fact, I would say the threat of substitute is higher. Why? Why high? Because the taxi fare is cheap compared to a airline ticket. The minibus fare is cheap compared to airline tickets as well. And so is you taking your own car. Threat of new entrants or new threats. The threat of new entrants over here, it's low Why? Because it's difficult for any new companies to enter the market. In fact, it will be impossible for new companies to enter the market unless and until they're able to meet the requirements of Fiji Airways. And also another plus point for Fiji Airways is that 51% of share that the government holds. So the government will try to ensure that no other threat comes in so that they're able to control the market, which is very fair. And rivalry, very low. There's no other. There's one, I think Northern Airlines. Yeah, it's Northern Airlines. There's only one, but they do not come to any match compared to Fiji Airways. Okay, so this is how sort of we try to analyze using Porter's 5 forces model. Now, the 3 generic strategies choosing a business focus. So generally, what businesses would do here, now this is Porter's 3 generic strategies. So there's 3: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus strategy. So what businesses will generally do is they will try to choose one of those. So either they will try to be in terms of cost leadership. When we say cost leadership, generally they will try to have the most reduced price. Differentiation, in other words, would be is they will try to ensure that they have a product which is very much different from the other organizations, or they'll work on focus strategy. Now, what focus strategy normally mean here is they will have their own strategies to market and to specialize in products. Now, value chain analysis, executing business strategies, business process, a standardized set of activities that accomplish a specific task, such as a specific process. Value chain analysis. So value chain analysis views a firm as a series of business processes that add value to product or service. Now, the primary here, if you look at business process, so what happens is, let's read this again, a standardized set of activities that accomplish a specific task, such as a specific process. Now, what business process in simple terms would generally mean is you have product A and you want to turn product A into, let's say, product B. So what are some of the series of steps that you would do to get the target or to get that output? So for example, let's choose an example. Let's have a look at our burger example again. So if you want to produce a burger, so the raw materials, you'll try to process it and you get the output. So the entire thing is called a process. In businesses, they have it something similar. Value chain analysis, executing business strategies. So primary value activities. So you have inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and then you have service. Now, the primary value activities, basically they acquire raw materials and they try to manufacture a specific product. You have the raw materials and then you try to convert that material into a specific product. So inbound logistics, they acquire raw materials and resources and distribute. Logistics, you distribute products and services. Operations, transform raw materials or inputs into goods and services. This is pretty simple. Outbound logistics, once your product is formed into goods and services, to distribute goods and services to customers. Now, in the distribution process, you have marketing and sales where you promote and you put in prices and then you sell products to customers. And after the products are sold, you provide after sales support, also known as customer support. Now, support value activities. Okay, now what happens is that it provides supports to the primary value activities. So the activities that you had here, so support value activities would try to provide support to those. Okay, firm infrastructure includes the company format or departmental structures, environment, and systems. So infrastructure is a physical layout of the firm. Human resource department provides employee training, hiring, and compensation. The people management department. Technology department applies MIS to process to add value. And procurement purchases inputs such as raw materials, resources, equipment, and supplies. So procurement department in an organization would be the department that generally buys products and services to produce their own. Now, the value chain analysis, executing business strategies, you have Porter's value chain. Okay. Now, what happens here is this. So you have all the raw material processing right at the very bottom, and then you have all the supporting structure. Now look at this. So you had primary value activities. So primary value activities are here, and these are your support value activities. So let's say if the organization wants to decrease their buyer power, what do you mean by decrease buyer power? That means the buyers, they have very little influence in terms of controlling the price. So what the organization can do is they can construct a value chain activity after sales service and then try to offer quality customer service. So what happens to the entire structure then? So what will happen is your process of producing those goods and services would remain the same. This would also remain the same, but your profit level will increase. How? Because you control the price. So once you control the price, this cost structure remains the same, but your profit rate increases. However, if you look at the other end, if your buyer has more control over the price, what will happen is that your cost here would remain the same. That means your sales value goes down and your profit value also goes down. So what Porter's value chain does is that it provides you with a structure within the information system to help you enable where each and every cost has incurred and how you can further improve things to control your buyer power. And the same thing is here. Whatever I've said, the same thing is explained here. Now, if you have a look at these things, from this would be a bit confusing to you, value chain analysis. Once we go over more examples, basic, hopefully in the tutorial questions, if we go over more questions, then you'll be able to grasp this. Now, we'll finish with the lecture notes. What I'll ask you is, I'll go at the right at the very beginning, and then I'll try to quote which things are important and where and in which things you need to concentrate the most, just to decrease your spending time on CN 708. Okay, now I did ask you to know what information age is. Fact is very simple. Fact is truth. Okay, whatever which is valid fact or truth. Do know what information age is. Also know what is Internet of Things, IoT. Now, be very familiar with IoT as well. Generally, in most of the reading materials, and probably questions as well, instead of Internet of Things, it may be quoted in terms of abbreviation IoT. So do know that. Also know what are the core drivers of information age. Therefore, data, information, business intelligence, and knowledge. Know what the difference between structured and unstructured data. Also know what is big data. Do know what is information. This is very easy, whereby data is converted into a meaningful form of processed data is called information. Business intelligence and its uses. What is business intelligence used for? For analyzing patterns and trends, and also for good decision making. Do know the 3 types of analytics and its application, where it is used. Knowledge worker. Who is a knowledge worker? Okay, generally a person who possesses skills, experience, and expertise with a certain information that can assist in better decision making, better interpretation, better analysis. Also do know this could also be a very common question. How can MIS be incorporated within an organization who are working independently, and what could be the benefits derived from it? The benefits derived if MIS is introduced in an organization. Basically, they'll be working on a common pace. They would be able to ascertain information very quickly and efficient decision making. Systems thinking, the importance of feedback in systems thinking. Do you know what is MIS, Management Information System? It would be ironic, right? If you are doing a unit, CN 708 Management Information System, and you do not know the meaning of Management Information System. So for the unit's sake, do know the meaning of MIS. Don't worry about this, just have a general view of the roles, okay? Don't need to really specifically know the definition, but have a general view of this. What is a business strategy and what could be some of the goals? Business strategy and some common goals. So these are examples of some common goals. Do you know what is competitive advantage and first mover advantage? And finally, you should know how you can identify competitive advantage. So you have 4 methods: SWOT analysis, Porter's 5 model, Porter's 3 generic strategies. By the way, when we say Porter, Porter is a name of an individual. He's a person who came up with this model. He's a researcher by profession. And then you have value chain analysis. Know all the parts in it. For example, SWOT analysis, know what SWOT is and the definitions. 5 forces model, know the 5 forces and the definition. Generic strategies, 3 of them, do know that. For value chain analysis, just know the basic definition of it. That's it. All right, so that is what we have in today's lecture. Now, before we knock off the class, is there any question? If you have any questions or any queries, please feel free to ask. Any questions, any queries? No question. Thank you, Chone. Anyone else? Any questions?
No questions.
No questions. Thank you, Kritika. Thank you. All right.
No, sir.
No questions? Okay, if there's no questions, so thank you very much for joining in. Just a note, CN 708 is a fully theoretical unit. That means most of the time we will be going over theory stuffs. So just in case, if you feel that theory is a bit boring for you, okay, that's why I generally try to interact in the middle of the classes. Do feel free to interact. Most likely from the next classes onwards, I'll try to bring in some questions in the middle. I'll try to have some interactive sessions so that things will become much more joyful in the class. So with that all, thank you very much for joining in. I'll see you in the next class, which is on Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. Please ensure that you have your tutorial questions answered. We will be discussing the questions. Till then, take care, stay safe. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. You too, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.